Okay, this is continuing along in this book, Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're on the letter B. We'll do Alexander Batsuk quotes. And here is where he says, humans are wired with a strong desire to understand and to predict, because for their ancestors, they used these tendencies to obtain shelter, food, and safety. When we can't understand or predict a situation, we find ourselves in uncertainty, which can cause frustration and anxiety. And we have a very strong gravitational pull towards wanting to resolve the unknown into the known. An ability to understand and predict gives us a feeling of security, of control. The subconscious mind processes the information and comes up with valuable insights that it communicates to the conscious mind with a gut feeling, a hunch, or an intuition. And all you have to do is tune in and listen to the gut feeling. Yeah, you know how like you go to, at night, you got a problem, you don't know what to do, and then you wake up in the morning, like sort of twilight zone before you get out of bed, and it's like all these key issues in the situation become clear to you. So you want to run and write them down before you forget them. Okay, the next person is Charles Baudelaire, the French guy. He said, always be a poet, even in prose. Yeah, I actually think they should teach people how to write poetry, because if you can write poetry, then you can pretty much write anything. You know, and even though he's a crazy jerk, that Eminem, you know, I went through his writings. He actually is a genius of writing. Yes, he's a moron, a fool, disgusting, slob, bad, all kinds of bad things about him. But man, he's a genius of writing. The Mozart of rap, that Eminem guy. And his best songs are when he writes about, you know, his own personal feelings, his relationship with his wife, his relationship with his competitive rappers, his relationship with his daughter. And I think that's also characteristic of good art, because it's more true to life when he's writing about his own personal experience. All that internal rhyme within the line is rather extraordinary. Okay, the next quote of Charles Baudelaire. The devil's best trick is to persuade you that he doesn't exist. Yeah, like in the modern world, all these stupid people think they don't need religion and God, and that's why everything is so messed up, because they don't understand. A population without religion is a very weak population. You know, God and religion, it inspires people. It elevates them. Their ancestors should be heroes to them. They're good ancestors. And that motivates and strengthens the people and gives them a clarity of vision and purpose. And without that, they tend to be a bunch of hedonistic, Epicurean, dilettante lightweights, you know. And anyways, Baudelaire's next quote. The poet is like the prince of the clouds, who rides out the tempest and laughs at the archer. But when he is exiled on the ground amidst the clamor, his giant wings prevent him from walking. Okay, so he basically thinks poets are the greatest thing, and that's because he writes poetry. And it's a little bit like Percy Bysshe Shelley, who said, you know, poets should rule the world. Everybody tends to think whatever is their strong point is, they overemphasize it. That's normal. Okay, the quote of Pierre Bayle. He says, I know too much to be skeptical of God. I know too little to be dogmatic about my religion. Yeah, I'm a little bit like that. I've read tons and tons of Bible commentary, a bunch of stuff from different Bible versions. And the more I've read, the more I kind of chill out on the dogma, because I know there's tons of disagreements that'll never change or ever be agreed upon. But the important stuff is just like what Jesus Christ said. Be nice to each other, forgive each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt, help each other. That which you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. So give everybody individual rights and be nice to everybody, the weak, the pets, the animals, and then everybody ends up better. There's a ripple effect that spreads from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And they all agree on that, and that's what matters the most. Okay, so anyways, Simone de Beauvoir, okay, the French lady philosopher, she said, one is not born a genius, one becomes a genius. And I think there's truth in that for the most part. A lot of times when they say a young person's a genius, what they really are is a prodigy. A prodigy is somebody who learns fast. But just because somebody's a prodigy, it doesn't mean that they're ever going to achieve anything significant or make any discovery, because to just memorize stuff, that's sort of one type of intelligence, and you know, a smarter person can learn it faster, but that's not the same. A real genius, in my opinion, I like the Dean K. Simonton definition. He says, a genius is someone who transforms a field. And I think that's a great definition. And that also gives a genius something to aspire to. And so, because a genius wants to find something that they can work on. Because like in a lot of fields, they're not allowed. Like in conventional medicine, geniuses for the most part are not allowed. They have to sell out and, you know, promote a drug or something, or they're just told to take a hike. Okay, Simone Beauvoir continues. The individuals who seem to us most outstanding, who are honored with the name of genius, are those who have proposed to enact the fate of all humanity in their personal existences. Okay, well, that's a good quote. In the sense, what she's basically saying is take on a big theme. If you want your work to have meaning and significance to a large number of people, it has to be a big theme. Most scientists work on little micro questions. They stay within the paradigm. They try to answer the next micro question that comes along. And that information is very useful, but that's not going to transform a field. Okay, Simone de Beauvoir, our next quote. When an individual is kept in a situation of inferiority, the fact is that they do eventually become inferior. Yeah, and there's truth in that too. So that's why sometimes if you feel like you're getting screwed over in a certain location, sometimes you got to move. And that can be very difficult for a lot of people. That can be difficult for me. Gosh, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And one of them sometimes is just to simply not realize the social significance of a setting, because it has so much importance. You know, if I could do it all over again, I would have been a professor at some type of university, because then my kids could have gone to college for free. I would have saved a lot of money. Plus, it would have been easy to teach, you know, at the med school level, the college level, etc. Versus if you're at, let's say, a private practice hospital, it's very difficult to drive over to the university or whatever. Then you got to pay a ton of money for your kids. The university is unlikely to hire you at the med school or the college level to teach. It's just a hobby. So you create options for yourself. It's good to be like in a small state where everything goes to that one big university. So there's big money there. Rather than in a big state, a lot of times there's 5 or more universities competing over a limited dollar, and they're all kind of broke. Plus everybody wants to live in a big city. So that means the salaries are low and the cost of living's high, etc. Okay, waiting for Godot was sort of an, you know, like a euphemism, a diminutive of God. It's a bit of an insult. So I don't really like that kind of stuff, but it was just a little interesting because I heard it a lot. Okay, Sister Wendy Beckett, she's a lady nun who's also an art critic, and she's a decent art critic. She does have some good little descriptions of art and analysis of art. I bought her books, I watched her video, and I like her, but I also think she's a bit of a wimp. She started, you know, praising modern art. I'm like, you know, get out of here. Whenever somebody praises modern art, I lose all respect for them because it means they're a sellout. They're intellectually caving in to peer pressure because they know that's going to make them more popular with the in crowd, but it also makes them of no value, because how could you respect somebody when they BS you and say that modern art is a quality thing and in the same category as real art? And it's nonsense. Okay, so here's just some quotes from Sister Wendy Beckett. All great art is a visual form of prayer. Okay, now that quote's very much like Ruskin, John Ruskin, the great Victorian age, the greatest art critic of all time. And he said, you know, all art is either instruction or infection. Okay, anyways, Sister Wendy continues, great art changes you. And some of it does. Look at the Creation by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. That's the most important painting ever made. Sister Wendy continues, museums like theaters and libraries are a means to freedom. Yeah, I mean, anybody can go to the library and read books for free, go to a museum and see stuff for free if you got a good museum. There's a lot more good books in libraries than there are good museums. Don't ever go to Modern Art Museum. They stink. But they still got some good museums for painting and stuff in the big cities. Okay, Sister Wendy, a work of art is great to the extent that to encounter it is to be changed. Well, I mean, there's a lot of artworks that are just iconic. You know, you see them and they like capture everything on that subject. Like the School of Athens is just magnificent. You know, there it is, the magnificence of the Greek scholars put into a Roman architectural setting and into the background of Christianity. And that's one of the things I like about Christianity. It's syncretic. Syncretic means the ability to take the knowledge from previous related cultures and to keep on building on it, rather than to be narrow and dogmatic and not accept anything. Also, the fact that the Catholic Church was much more supportive of painting and art and sculpture. Protestants were not. They used to be iconoclastic and would destroy all the paintings and sculpture, saying idolatry, idolatry. But if a religious culture and group destroys painting and sculpture, then they stink at painting and sculpture, and that's a big loss from artistic creativity. So, stupid. All right, so here's Dr. Ruth Beechick, an educator. She said, children who learn to ask questions are far ahead educationally, particularly in the fields of history and the other social studies. Yeah, that's why kids learn better in homeschool. They can talk to their parent and ask them questions, versus in school you're told basically to shut up, keep your hands to yourself, and do as you're told. That's why public schools make people stupid. Okay, Ruth Beechick. Discussion, especially with the adults, is the best known way for children to raise their level of thinking. And this also raises their test scores. Yep. Ruth Beechick's favorite Bible verse was Philippians 4, chapter 4, verse 8. She said, "Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good, think on these things." Yeah, be positive and focus on the good stuff. So that's all nice. So I like these educators. I was real interested in education. I read tons and tons of stuff about education. But yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of the ones like, John Taylor Gatto said, when you nurture that creative instinct in the person, let them pursue something that they have an interest in, they do way better because they're interested in it. We talked also about the book whisperer. That was a 6th grade teacher. All she did, typical school only, they read 1, 2, or 3 books a year as a class, and everybody hates it. It's kind of a miserable experience, and the kids mock the book and hate it. Versus if you just let them read whatever they want, and she described this in the book Whisperer, 6th grade class, the average kid in their class read about 43 books a year, and they were by far the best students in the school and everything. Okay, so that's it for this session of quotes. Hope that was helpful.